Hello, my friends. Welcome to one more chapter of this series about spiritual science. My name is Carlos Guterres, and I'm sharing with you my journey step by step on this amazing journey we call the spiritual journey. On this episode, we'll continue to talk about meditation. So if you want to understand this chapter in deep, please, I strongly recommend you to watch the episode 8 before to continue watching this one. So we are talking about meditation. And on the last episode, I shared you a very simple exercise about a kind of meditation we call the inner journey. There is hundreds of different ways to meditate. This one is a procedure very helpful for Western people because, we are not so well trained in meditation. And our mind is a little bit rebel when you say, stop thinking. Because, the Eastern meditation principle is calm down our mind until we stop thinking. But for our mind, it's not easy because a very simple reason. And this reason is related to the Western belief system. In the East, it's very common to hear about reincarnation. Everybody have an idea about reincarnation, and it's in the belief system in the East that reincarnation is something possible, at least possible. So what happens when you have in our belief system something very clear like the life continues, incarnation after incarnation? Death is not something so traumatic because when we die, according to this belief system, we're just like changing the clothes for the next. But in the West, all the three major religions don't mention about reincarnation. So for us in the West, life is something unique, a unique experience that will never be lived again. So even, consider that the West religions believe that something exists after life. The manifested experience is unique. So death is something much more deeply touching our mind because our mind believes that we will never be back again. So when you say to our mind, stop thinking, this feeling reminds our mind to death. That's the reason when you say to our mind, stop thinking, what happens is exactly the opposite. Our mind begins to think and become much more active than before. So the inner journey meditation never tells to our mind, stop thinking. we teach our mind to think about one thing at a time. So we guide our mind to think one thing, and then from this move to another and another and another. It's like to say, let's make a journey. Imagine you are following this highway. Then imagine that you are turning left in 5 minutes, and there you find a country road moving between the woods, and then you stop the car and begins to walk in a little path. So you are telling your mind to imagine many things in a sequence. So our mind never think about stop thinking. But if our mind keep following our guidance, in one moment we'll stop thinking without connect to that fear. So this is what we will share today about the uh, inner journey meditation. I told you in the previous chapter that on this chapter I will explain the symbols of this meditation, because the major key is the language of symbols. You know, the language of symbols is really important, because, you know, the words change meaning throughout the time, but the symbols stay the same. That's the reason the ancient philosophers, the ancient wise people, they use the language of symbols. So, first of all, we need to understand that the images that came in the eyes of our mind through the meditation are images that brings a profound symbolism. Why? It's very simple to understand. But the reason to understand the importance of symbol is to know that our mind will enter in a new dimension, a dimension where there is no matter. And we are used to deal with manifested things that we can understand using the five senses. But the five senses are useful only in the material world. The meditation takes our mind to a dimension that's pure energy. And on this dimension, we have just energy with different frequencies, but pure energy. So when we are on this specific dimension of pure energy, we use our imagination as a translator. So different variations of energy will create images in our mind that make sense. So to understand in deep, we need to go deeper and deeper in the language of symbols. For example, if you are meditating, in some moment appears in your mind a tree made of light. Of course, in your meditation, we are not seeing a tree, a real tree. But your imagination is translating the quality and the vibration of the energy you are involved and creates the image of tree, because a tree is a very powerful symbol. A tree represents life. That's the reason in many different cultures and traditions, they have this symbol, the tree of life. And the tree of life represents our own and individual life. Are you following me? So, if in your imagination we see a symbol, later you have to translate the symbol to understand the message you're receiving from the energetic world. Because it's not usual to receive the message in words, but in symbols. My name is Carlos Gutierrez, as I told you, and I welcome you to this journey. So now we'll begin to talk about meditation, the specific kind of meditation we call the inner journey. And today I'll explain step by step of this journey. On this episode, I called the map of the heart. If you like this presentation, don't forget to let a like on this channel. And if you want to watch previous episodes, take a look at my YouTube channel called Carlos Gutierrez. Okay, so remember in the last episode, we began the meditation when I invite you to imagine your consciousness or your spirit begins to become smaller and smaller and smaller. You know, our spirit or our consciousness is as big as our manifested body, but it's made by pure energy. So when we begin to practice this meditation, I invite you to reduce the size of your spirit, reduce the size of your consciousness. And the moment you begin to reduce the size, you're reducing the weight too. So why to reduce your consciousness if almost all the other meditation practices ask you to expand your consciousness? There's a very simple explanation. As you can see in the illustration, around our body there is a field of energy. Some sensitive people can see this field and usually call this field aura. This field has a very important function, the function to protect us. And this is a perfect protected field. There is no negative energy in the entire universe capable to cross this protection and enters affecting us. So when we imagine or when you use our consciousness in a process to expand it more and more and more and more, what happens? These energetic fields stay the same size. So our consciousness will expand beyond this frontier. And our consciousness becomes vulnerable for negative energy exists outside. Bigger we expand our consciousness, more vulnerable we are. And the same explanation works when we project our consciousness to different places, because the protections stay around our physical body. The ancient wisdom repeated over and over and over again. As above, so below, and as below, so above. It means that everything that exists in the macrocosmos around us is reflected in our microcosmos, and vice versa. Imagine, we are living in a universe. According to scientists, the known universe has trillions of galaxies. As our body has trillions of cells. And each galaxy has hundreds of billions, maybe trillions of atoms, as well as our cells have billions or trillions of atoms. So in the macrocosmos, the galaxy has billions or trillions of stars. As in our microcosmos, each cell has billions of trillions of atoms. Can you see it's so similar, the macro universe and the micro universe? So everything you're looking for outside, you can find inside. With one thing, very important, when you dive deep inside, you're still protected by this energetic field. But if you expand your consciousness, your spirit to research or to looking for something outside, your energetic field is stay the same size, and you expose yourself for many different fields of energy. And some of those energies are not friendly to us. So that's the reason in this specific practice, instead to expand our consciousness, we reduce our consciousness. So, simple. We imagine our consciousness as big as our manifested body, and we use a very simple exercise to change the perspective. Instead to keep focus to outside and use our five senses to feel the external world, we begin the meditation focus in our breath. Because in the moment you're focusing, inhale and exhale, you're not paying attention outside anymore. You're paying attention in your micro universe. We don't need to use a very profound breath. You just breathe normally, a little bit slowly, but normally. And this simple exercise change your perception from outside into inside. And then you go deeper, because I invite you to look for the heartbeat. Feel your own heartbeat. And the moment you're feeling your own heartbeat, use this rhythm to reduce your consciousness on this rhythm. So every heartbeat you perceive, you imagine your consciousness becomes smaller, 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 and lighter, 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 lighter. So your consciousness becomes smaller, 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 until you feel your consciousness, until you imagine your consciousness floating a couple of inches above your head because you're still in the protected field. So on this practice, imagination is a very important tool. So after you feel your consciousness as small as possible, I suggest if you can feel your consciousness reduced to the size of a grain of rice, perfect. The next step, still using the power of your imagination, imagine that the walls, the roof, the floor disappears and you feel in the middle of pure nature. A place in nature you feel comfortable, you feel welcome. So you can imagine yourselves in the seashore, on the highest mountain, in a field with grass, flowers, in the middle of the woods. The important thing, you feel integrate to the nature. Because this is a way you reconnect to our own nature. This is the symbol of this imagination. Then, in the next step, you imagine that from the heart of the sun, a particle of light came in direction of your reduced consciousness. And this particle of light of the sun involve your consciousness. So now you are dressed in light. And in the sequence, you imagine that your consciousness goes in direction of your inner universe. Move from the top of your head down through the center of your top of your head. And it begins to go deeper inside. And imagine that the light that involves you expand, illuminate your inner universe. And you keep moving in direction of your heart, because your heart represents your center. This first part of meditation we call concentration, because you concentrate your essence and goes in direction of your own center. So we are not going to your physical heart, this muscle that is expanding, contracting, pumping the blood. But on this area exists your energetic heart, and this is the place you are taking your consciousness inside. So let me show you like a map of this energetic heart. So you're moving down through the top of your head with your perception, the eyes of your consciousness looking to the front, like your physical eyes, and you keep moving down, 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 down in the direction of your heart. And you enter your heart. And inside of the left side of your heart, your energetic heart, you'll find something like this. So if here is the front of your body, here is the back, you arrive first in a round chamber. So imagine your consciousness arriving here. So after to arrive on this area, we imagine that on your right side there is a passage that you go to another chamber. This chamber is smaller than the previous one, And this chamber have another symbol. So, you know, I'm just showing the map of the energetic heart. And more you practice this meditation, more you get use of this area, and you begin to observe that there are symbols on each place you visit. And finally, when you reach the second chamber, you move to your right again, and you find the third chamber. This is the most important one. This is the sacred temple of your heart. So let me show another perspective, three-dimensional perspective or of your heart. This is the place you arrive, the first chamber. This chamber is round. Then you have a passage to the second chamber. This second one, you can see an open window in front of you when you arrive here, and a closed door. So here is the front of the body, here is the back of the body. So the, the third chamber is in the direction of your back. So every symbol in this journey matters. So here is where you arrive in the first chamber. So remember, on the first chapter of our series, I mentioned about the 7 dimensions of nature. And we have an expression on each one of the 7 dimensions. In another chapter, I mentioned that the 3 dimensions below are related to the manifested body. So the physical body, the emotional body, and the mental body represents the manifestation. And our consciousness is used to move through those 3 dimensions easily. But when we begin a spiritual journey, we need to cross this frontier. You can see here in yellow. So we need to move our consciousness from the mental dimension up to the psychic dimension, because here is the beginning of our spiritual journey. So back to the map, you can see 3 chambers. Each one is related to one of the dimensions we need to move to begin a spiritual journey. So the first chamber represents the emotional body. So let's go back to, in the moment you reduce your consciousness and enters inside your physical body, you are moving through the physical body to reach the emotional body. And the emotional body is symbolized by the first chamber. On this chamber, using your imagination, you find something, or you see something interesting with the eyes of your imagination. In the wall, in your back, you can see a very solid wall, like a wall made by stones or made by bricks. But the wall in front of you is something blurry. You cannot see so clearly. And there's a symbolism for this. The wall in the back represents your past. You know very clear what happened in your life. The wall in front represents your future, and you cannot see clearly what will happen next. So here you go to your right side, you walk and you cross this passage to find the next chamber, the second chamber. This chamber represents the mental body. And this window, you can see a blue light. A sky blue light enters through this chamber. And blue is the color of your mental body. When you move to your right, you can see in the right wall a closing door. A double door closed. And this door never opens. This closing door represents the frontier between the material world and the energetic world. This closing door represents that yellow frontier. And so, when you're in front of this door, you imagine that you can cross this door without opening. And you reach the third chamber. The third chamber represents your psychic body. And this is the beginning of a spiritual journey. When you take your consciousness, when you take your spirit to cross this door that never opens, to enter in a chamber that represents the beginning of a spiritual pathway. You know, this symbol is very ancient. In the old temples in Egypt, in Greece, behind the major altar, there was always a door that never opens. And this symbol stays present during the Middle Age, when they began to build the cathedrals, the Gothic cathedrals. And some churches already you can see this closing door. For example, if you visit the cathedral in Santiago, Spain, Santiago de Compostela, behind the major altar, there is a closing door. They call the Saint Door. But in the ritual of the church, they open this door in specific dates to celebrate the saint, Saint James. So there is a 1 year every other years where this door is open. So if you go there and pray, you are allowed to cross this door. And the meaning is, when you cross this door, all your sins are erased. So in our meditation, this door never is opened, because when you cross this door, you are filtered. And only the best of you, only your essence, cross to the energetic universe. So when you cross the energetic universe, it's like you pass for a ritual of purification. And this third chamber is the place where lives your higher self. The higher self is our first guide in a spiritual journey. So this is something very important, because usually people are looking for spiritual guides here in the material world. And I mentioned before, and I will mention again, there's no human being ready to be a guide of another human being in the spiritual journey. Do you know why? Because this journey is unique for each person, is individual journey. So if you're looking for a guide, you'll find in your third chamber. Maybe when you begin to meditate, you'll feel this energy. You feel this presence, but you cannot visualize with your eyes of your imagination yet. But the important thing in this practice is to feel. So now, after this explanation, I would like to invite you for an exercise. So maybe you need to prepare a place to meditate. So in this case, I suggest you to pause this video and look for a quiet place where you can stay without interruption, turn off your cell phone, and we'll begin meditation. Okay? So here you are. First of all, I invite you to find a place where you can sit comfortably. Check if your body is relaxed. If you feel any tension, change your position for a more comfortable position. You can close your eyes or semi-close your eyes. And we begin the meditation. Focus in our breath. And when we exhale, we imagine that we are releasing everything you don't need anymore. To inhale pure energy that energizes and regenerates us. So imagine that we are exhaling everything that worries us. In exchange, we inhale peace of mind. We exhale our sadness, our losses. And inhale happiness. We exhale our frustration, things that make us angry. And inhale calm. Now let's exhale all our fears, all our insecurities. To inhale confidence, security. Finally, let's exhale all the stress, all the effort we are having during the day. To inhale serenity, tranquility. So now let's put our attention to feel the heartbeat. And the moment you can identify your heartbeat, you are connecting to the rhythm of your life. Let's imagine that following the rhythm of our heartbeat, our consciousness begins to reduce the size. And our consciousness or our spirit becomes smaller, smaller, and keep becoming smaller, keep reducing the size. And the smaller our spirit becomes, lighter it becomes. And so you can imagine that our consciousness reduced, reduce it, begins to float a little bit above our heads, a couple of inches above our head. Let's reduce our consciousness to the size of a grain of rice. Next step, let's imagine the walls, the roof, and the floor where I am disappears because I'm in the middle of nature. I can feel a pure breeze in my face. I can feel above me a clear blue sky. And on the top, I can see the sun, a bright sun. A sun spreading all its light, bright splendor. I can feel the warmth of the sun in my skin. I can feel the energy of the sun surrounding me. And I imagine from the center of the sun came a drop of pure light. And this drop can involve my consciousness. So now my consciousness is like dressed with this pure light of the sun. The next step, let's imagine that our consciousness enters inside of our body from the top of our head. And the light that involves our reduced consciousness expands inside of our head, illuminate everything. And you keep moving down through the neck. And when you enter into our chest, the light that involves us expand more. And you keep moving down in direction of our heart. Finally, when you reach our energetic heart, our spiritual heart, we imagine we arrive in a round room, a round chamber. We feel that we are as consciousness in the center of the round chamber. And from the top, from the tunnel we took to reach this chamber, the light of the sun is still flowing like a fall of light, like a shower of light that keeps coming to our heart and fill this chamber and overflow this chamber, illuminate all our heart, and overflowing again and expanding to illuminate our lungs and all our organs, bringing vitality to each one of our organs, heart, lungs, stomach, spleen, pancreas, the kidneys in the back, the liver and gallbladder in the right side. And this light moves up through the neck to illuminate our brain and all the neurologic system. It moves down to illuminate our small and large intestine, bladder, and reproductive organs. And you feel this light spreading through all our tissues until reach the level of our cells. And each cell receives this light that brings regeneration, that brings vitality, that brings happiness and peace. And keeps move deeper and deeper to reach the atomic level. And each one of our atoms are receiving this light. But our consciousness is still there in the round chamber. Let's imagine that we are moving to our right side and see a small passage. And when you cross this passage you find the second chamber. In front of us, a window that receives a beautiful sky blue light. And when you turn right, we saw a close the door. Let's walk in direction to this door. And in front of this door, let's ask permission to cross. And using the power of imagination, we cross this door without opening it. And finally, we reach the temple, the sacred temple of our heart. Let's imagine we are walking in direction of the center of this temple. The atmosphere of this temple is pure. We can feel a profound peace. We can feel a profound love surrounding us, embracing us. Let's take some moments just to absorb all this peace, all this love. Let's take some moments in silence just to feel. If you want, you can make a prayer. But let's just feel all this pure vibration we are surrounded. Feeling that our essence is absorbing all this peace, all this love, all this serenity. And feeling thankful for all these blessings. We say thank you to our higher self. And you move back to the second chamber. So you move in the direction of the door who never is open. We cross this door without opening the door. And then we are in the second chamber. Then you go left in the direction of the passage. And after to cross the passage, we are back to the first chamber. And when you're in the center of this chamber, imagine that we are moving up through the tunnel that brought us here. And you keep moving up until to reach the top of our head and feel once more floating above our head. Using our imagination, we feel back to the place where the floor, the walls, and the roof manifest itself again. And feeling the rhythm of our heart, we begin to expand our consciousness little by little. And our consciousness becomes more and more expanded, bigger, bigger, until we reach the same side of our manifested body. And the moment we feel totally reconnected to our physical body, we are finishing our meditation, so you can open your eyes again, and you're back. I recommend you to practice the meditation frequently. If you cannot practice once a day, you can practice once a week. And you feel things change in your life. You feel more centered. You feel more connected to your inner harmony. And little by little, you feel connected to your higher self. This is just the beginning. But you know, a journey begins with the first step. This is the first real step. Okay, my friends, thank you for following me until here. And until the next episode, where I'll continue to share with you information about this amazing, this beautiful spiritual journey. Thank you so much and see you. Bye.